In a week in which the president has seen the Jeffrey Epstein story continue to boil, in part with his own help, this latest development only added yet more fuel. We learned that his accomplice, who is serving a 20-year sentence for conspiring in the trafficking of girls as young as 14, just got her prison accommodations upgraded. Ghislaine Maxwell, the convicted co-conspirator in the most notorious child sex trafficking case on modern record, has been transferred to a federal minimum security prison in Texas, a facility that typically, according to one former FBI agent I spoke to, does not even house sex offenders without a special waiver. This is happening with the Justice Department in talks to secure some kind of cooperation from Maxwell, and the president not ruling out pardoning her. And of course, growing pressure on the administration from both Democratic and Republican lawmakers and voters to release more from the investigation of Epstein, who was, after all, once a close friend of the president. And on top of that, the president's shifting account all week of his break with Epstein. Today, the family of Epstein accuser Ghislaine Maxwell, along with other accusers, Virginia Giuffre, reacted to the latest development, saying in a statement, quote, "It is with horror and outrage that we object to the preferential treatment convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell has received. Ghislaine Maxwell is a sexual predator who physically assaulted minor children on multiple occasions, and she should never be shown any leniency." For more on this, we're joined by investigative journalist Sarah Fitzpatrick, who's been reporting on the story for a long time for The Atlantic. Also, defense attorney and former federal prosecutor Shan Wu. Good to have you both here on a Friday night. Shan, first to you. Under normal circumstances, how would a person qualify for movement to a lower security facility? What conditions or circumstances would they have to meet?
I think we have to start with the point that most convicted sex offenders wouldn't qualify for this extremely low level. I mean, they can have a low level minimum security, but this is a camp. It's like the lowest level meant for white collar people who are considered to be no danger to folks. Having said that, for this type of a change to occur, there usually has to be some extenuating reasons. For example, let's say there's a medical reason you need to move them to a facility with a hospital or a place where they're doing special treatment for sex offenders. None of those seem to apply here. I suppose you might also, if someone had been incarcerated for many years, exemplary record, that's why it justifies that. Again, there's no such situation here, and so there's nothing that's stopping the Bureau of Prisons or the Justice Department from explaining why this happened. There's no security risk to say we did this for medical reason, some family reason, but not explaining that really raises a lot of questions, and normally this would not happen.
Sarah, we read that statement, of course, from the Giuffre family, as well as other Epstein and Maxwell victims. Can you tell us what you've been hearing from the victims and victims' relatives as they take in this news?
Jim, you cannot overstate what a explosive and just kind of earth-shattering development this is for so many victims. My phone has been ringing off the hook all day today. Not just victims, but also from members of law enforcement who either worked on this case or have, followed this case closely, because it is just, it is so unbelievable to them, the timing. It just looks and suggests that there may be some kind of deal made in the last couple of days. And the statement that the Giuffre family said today was so clear. It was shocking to me, actually, how strong it was. They said this smacks of a cover-up. And I think the major thing that all of these victims, members of law enforcement, even just people of the general public who have such an interest in this case, it is the reason that this is so incredible is that it speaks to the very thing that makes the Epstein case such an issue of national importance. And that's the fact that the evidence suggests, laid out that we have learned through lots of testimony, through interviews and other things, that there were different standards of justice for people who had power and means. And that's why this story even has taken on this conspiracy theory level online across the internet, because it has this stickiness, and that point was just underscored in the events today. So I would say the victims and others involved in this case, they are distraught. and they feel that something is very amiss here.
So Shan Wu, you have the timing of this move to a lower security prison. You also have, at a minimum, the unconventional talks between the president's deputy attorney general and a woman who's been convicted and is now serving 20 years for horrible, horrible crimes. And you have attached to that the president's Justice Department's decision not to release files that he long said he would release. So when you add those things together, does that legally seem inappropriate to you?
It does seem inappropriate in this sense in particular, Jim, which is it's utterly in disarray. It's unprofessional. It's not how you would conduct an investigation. There are many situations where someone who is giving valuable information as a cooperator, they may get little perks. They get more phone calls, maybe more access to the computer. There's no indication here that they're getting anything valuable, and one wonders what could possibly be valuable at this point. I mean, her testimony would be so biased, so discredited. Yeah. Not only that, you factor in the idea that the Deputy Attorney General is conducting the interview. It's really unheard of. Why not have the agents who worked on the case, the prosecutors who really know the case, see if there's something else that can be valuable? This simply sounds like they're playing some FaceTime to her. We'll have the deputy AG come in who never does interviews like this. And then when you add in the timing, we're going to give you a nicer, cushier kind of place to be in jail. It seems like they want to entice her into doing something that's helpful to them, but really there can't be anything of substance that's of value coming from her at this point.
Sarah, of course, many of the president's supporters, and at times the president himself, promised that they were going to be transparent where previous administrations were not, that they were finally going to release all the files that showed how far and wide Epstein's and Maxwell's crimes went. Now you have the president reversing that, it seems. And I wonder, do family members, victims, friends, relatives, et cetera, look at this as a betrayal?
Absolutely. I mean, I think everyone was willing to, on a bipartisan basis, of course, remember, there are over 1,000 Epstein victims. So this is a really wide group. And that's just that we know of, that the Justice Department has acknowledged. It is likely many times that. But I think it's important that this is, you know, these victims viewed this not as a political football, which this has kind of become in recent weeks. For them, this is about accountability and justice. And that's important for two reasons. One, Epstein, we know through our reporting and all of the evidence that has been presented in court as well as civil litigation, that this was an extensive sex trafficking operation that involved a lot of people, including some mandatory reporters, doctors, other people that would have been required to speak out about what was happening. And so those people have not yet been held accountable in any meaningful way. And secondly, all of the victims, and especially Virginia, who, you know, I was in touch with right up until she died, it was so important to her that what came out of this horrific experience was changes in legislation, changes in rules about how law enforcement talks to victims, that they have to be informed before certain things happen. None of the victims today have been informed about the facts that Maxwell was moved. And that, you know, is another just kind of slap in the face. It's also, I think, really important. There's an element of re-traumatization here. Because one of the things that Maxwell in particular did so effectively is she would taunt these victims, and she would say, or people that would be in a position to know things, and she would say, you can't do anything because we own the police. We own the FBI. We own the district attorney's office. And so that had a really chilling effect on people that may have been inclined to come forward. And this situation today, I think everyone in America looking at this can't help but think that perhaps, there is a new system of justice here, and that perhaps they are not safe in coming forward, going forward. And that's going to be a major problem for all kinds of investigations.
That would be such yet one more sad impact of all this. Sarah Fitzpatrick, Shan Wu, thanks so much to both of you.